Hey everyone, before we get into the video, I just wanted to let you know where I've been and the future of this channel. If you'd rather get into the video, I will put a timestamp here to skip to the relevant information. There are a few reasons I haven't been able to upload. Recently, I had a mass hard drive crash, wiping out over 2 terabytes of data, including some already made videos as well as any templates for videos going forward. This drastically reduced my desire to make videos, since more than a month of video work went to waste, but I've picked myself up and I'm ready to rebuild. As for the future of the channel, I will no longer be uploading stream highlights publicly. All future and current uploads will go into a public playlist that will hold privated videos. This means those videos won't be gone if you wanted to watch them, but they won't be on my front page. This channel will be for guides, lore reading, and fully edited content like this video here. With all that said, thanks for watching this far, but let's actually get into the video. Trickster is an interesting killer. He is a 4.4 meters per second or 110% movement speed killer who rapidly throws knives as a power. After hitting a few knives, he is able to activate his main event, which allows him to throw knives even faster without running out. Seems rather decent on paper, right? The catch here is that each dagger is 1/8 or 1/7 with the Melodious Murder add-on of a health state. This means you need to land a minimum of 16 dagger throws that have a hitbox of a Deathslinger harpoon. In addition, he throws them slowly and inaccurately when he first starts, as well as moves very slowly while throwing. With this, you have a recipe for a killer who can't down people very quickly and has little to no map pressure. So, what's actually wrong with the Trickster? Why does this killer seem to underperform unless he's in the hands of the very best of killer players? What can be done to make him better, from a design perspective? Why is he such a beautiful babe of a man? Well, hopefully I can answer these questions in this video, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with why the killer underperforms. To put it simply, he just doesn't down people very quickly. On any tall wall loop or building, you tend to have a hard time landing daggers. On shorter wall loops, you can throw your daggers over the loop wall and pallet or window, but in every spot you can land a dagger, other ranged killers are hitting hatchets or harpoons for whole damage states. This means that survivors who know where to stand on most loops to prevent damage against Huntress and Deathslinger will also know where to stand against Trickster, except that they will be 8 times more effective. Another fault of the killer is that they don't really have perks that synergize with their base kits. Deathslinger has Save the Best for Last, and Huntress has things like Bitter Murmur and I'm All Ears. However, Trickster doesn't really benefit from anything like that. You end up using generic builds on him like Ruin Undying or Ruin Pop Goes the Weasel because no perk or combo of perks really stands out to improve his performance. There's an argument that Save the Best for Last can work quite well on him, since you can use his daggers to down the Obsession. This is like saying Huntress uses Save the Best for Last well. She might, but at that point why not use your hatchets? With the Trickster, if you'd rather use your basic attack instead of your power, why are you playing this killer? You just become a 110 melee killer with no power 75% of the time. So what can we as a player base do about this? Well, nothing technically. The community itself has come out to publicly inform behavior that Trickster is a weak killer. This is all well and good, but I'm more interested in what we can do to play him now, as well as theory crafting actual solutions to his general problem. I'm not interested in whining about something I cannot fix. I'm not interested in adding my voice to the collective who is likely being unhelpful. Instead, I'm going to start talking about what perks I like to use on him, and the way I've been playing him. The perks I've finally settled on him are Bamboozle, Nurse's Calling, Pop Goes the Weasel, and Thrilling Tremors. There's a bit of wiggle room here. Pop and Thrilling are a lovely combo on any killer that work quite simply together. You pick up a survivor, see a gen being worked on, and you go there to pop it. However, you could put Hex, Ruin, and Undying in these spots, as they as perks tend to perform quite well on anyone. Your only problem here is they are Hex perks. Survivors can cleanse them, and if this happens early, you're going to have a rough game. Bamboozle is a perk I honestly didn't think I would like on Trickster. On many loops, I find simply blocking the window allows you to force a pallet drop quite quickly. Once you get the pallet down, you can play around that vault with your daggers or break it to reduce resources. In the same frame of mind, a perk like Brutal Strength could work quite well alongside Bamboozle. Nurse's Calling is here for tracking purposes. 28 meters for aura reading is higher than your terror radius as a Trickster. This means you get the same benefit as Huntress does from this perk, minus the humming. It works quite well for finding people on smaller maps, especially if you can hurt many people at the same time. If you find yourself ditching Bamboozle and have a spare slot, you may be able to use Thanatophobia alongside Nurses. I'm personally not a fan of Thana, but the two perks synergize, so there's some value to be found here. Add-ons can be summed up quite quickly, I think. The very best add-on for being effective is called Melodious Murder. It looks like a flash drive and it lowers the number of daggers needed to damage a health state from 8 to 7. This is a surprisingly effective improvement on his power. The number of times when using other or no add-ons that I wasn't able to land my final dagger for damage was entirely too high. On paper, it doesn't seem like much, but in practice, this add-on makes a huge difference. It saves you so much time, you can't quantify it with numbers. Otherwise, almost anything can work. All of his purple add-ons are quite decent, and just about every add-on is fine to use. However, I find the Extra Blade add-ons to be the most useful, with initial throw rate add-ons coming up right behind. Please take this section with a solid, large bit of salt. I am not a Trickster main, I am not proficient with 110 ranged killers, and I play Plague almost without her powers, so yeah. It seems the key to using this man's power is forcing people to vault pallets and windows in front of you. You need to time your dagger pull to be early enough to throw 3 or 4 daggers during the vault or pallet throw animation. This is the most consistent way to deal damage with his power. Otherwise, mid-range daggers are reasonably effective if there aren't any walls to immediately hide behind. However, you must learn to pace your throws. If you waste all your daggers on trying to hit fancy shots, you won't have any when you get to an actual playable tile. Melee range daggers are the most effective. Normally you can ask, why not basic attack? Why spend the time to hit your daggers? Whenever survivors get hurt, they tend to use the speed boost to get away, either in a straight line or to the closest wall for cover, or in a way that dodges your daggers. This means you can use this speed boost to actually land more daggers on their way out. I will remind you that nothing here is a perfect, foolproof way to play the killer. Sometimes you'll find yourself just whacking survivors with your bat and never using a dagger because you don't have time. Sometimes you'll land every dagger and smash your opponent, or neither of these things will happen, and you'll lose 5 pips in a row and never play the killer again. These things are all pretty likely to happen, to be honest. Here, I'm going to try to answer the first and third questions I posed earlier. What's wrong with him, and how to make him better? Trickster actually resembles the release of the Legion. Both were fairly weak killers when they first came out, and both were completely non-interactive to play against. With Old Legion, they would frenzy stab you once, then twice, and have a cooldown. When their frenzy was off cooldown, they would stab you again, repeat a final time, and you're down. Or if you used a purple add-on, it would only take 3 frenzy hits. They could follow you through windows and over pallets. You could not get away. Almost no counterplay at all. This is not even to mention the moonwalk plays the Legion could pull, but this is a Trickster video, not a Legion one. This was not very fast, but it was guaranteed downs, with the added effect of being able to chain hits quickly. This meant that the Legion could kill the person they chased almost always, but their map pressure was terrible. Compare this with our boy the Trickster. Eventually his daggers will get you, through windows, through pallets, through body blocks, and everything. You will go down eventually with so little counterplay it hurts sometimes. Legion was also 110 on release, and everyone totally misunderstood their name, just some other things they have in common. The problem here with Trickster is not simple. If you look at the PTB version of the Trick Blades, you will find the core of the problem. PTB trick blades used to deal 200% laceration after one bounce. This meant you could throw 4 blades at the floor directly behind the survivor and they would lose a health state. Do it again, they were down. It was nuts. If you buff the Trickster in almost any way, he would become oppressive. He would down people too quickly and the survivors couldn't do anything about it at all. Give him 115% speed, like many have said, and he can never lose survivors. Lower the number of daggers it takes to down survivors, he'll become even more frustrating to play against. Make his laceration never degrade and his map pressure becomes overwhelming. It goes in circles. Make him any better than where he is now and he's too strong. But it's actually even worse than that. DBD survivors almost don't care whether something is strong. They care when they can't do anything about it during the game. Lots of good survivors hate going up against the nurse, who's arguably the best killer in the game, but they would take a nurse over a spirit any day of the week. The reason for this is how much your gameplay affects the game. With nurse, you are constantly playing mind games and movement tricks on each other, but with the spirit you have to guess. There's much less for the survivor to do to counterplay some of the spirit's mind games. So it wouldn't matter for Trickster if you were better than nurse. It matters how much survivors can do about it, and at the moment, that's not a whole lot. So what does behavior do? The ways to tackle this are limited in my mind. My first thought was to give him the Legion treatment. Make him 115, make it so his daggers are non-lethal, but instead put survivors into deep wounds. That's it. He's now Legion, but with a gun, daggers. This solution is boring, plain, and doesn't set the bat-toting killer apart from the rest of the cast. I can see behavior doing this, but I think it would be a mistake. Making a Legion copy is pretty uninspired. Another idea I had was to simply add Mangled and Hemorrhage to his base kit dagger. This means whenever the Trickster deals a health state of damage with his daggers, the survivors bleed more and take longer to heal. Would this fix the problem of how unfun he is to play against? No. Would it make the killer perform better? Yeah, probably. At the moment you can throw all of your daggers and land 15 out of 16 and the survivor gets away, you run out of daggers or whatever. You can try to chase them into a strong part of the map to get the basic attack in order to finish the job, but you can't close the deal because you're slow. Once you break off to get daggers, the survivor can heal with inner strength, a strong medkit, or some other way, and you're suddenly back to square one. No laceration, no health state, nothing. You're slow to regain a chase to boot. With a built-in sloppy butcher on daggers, at least you can slow down the heal and waste some time. It doesn't force you to mend or go down like Legion or Deathslinger, but it does slow the game down just a bit. I even had an idea where every 2 daggers would cause a different additional status effect. At 2, the survivor gets blindness, at 4, oblivious, at 6, hindered, and at 8, incapacitated. The 8th dagger would not damage the survivor. Each status effect would have its own timer. 60 seconds for blindness, 50 seconds for oblivious, 4 seconds with hindered, and 30 seconds for incapacitated. With this, the Trickster must also be made 115% movement speed. It's extremely similar to the previous change. The difference here is that the dagger cannot damage at all and doesn't use deep wounds. This makes his power more like a utility power and less like a damage power. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's definitely unlike any other power on the board. Perhaps in addition to this would be while in main event, daggers deal the laceration damage they have now. This would require the player to time when to use main event if they wanted to get the most out of it. But because the daggers don't deal damage regularly, you could effectively 99 the main event bar. I like this idea the best, but it would require lots of tuning and work on behavior's part. I'm not sure how much they're willing to do with a near brand new killer, especially with a huge name like Resident Evil on the horizon. Otherwise, I feel like the killer just needs to be reworked. It sucks, because throwing things is always fun, but his existence is miserable. Make his daggers do more things. Let the players choose when to use main event. Let main event ricochet once. Something to make him more interesting, but not oppressive. Otherwise, he's just going to be an extremely weak or ranged Legion. Why is Trickster such a babe of a man? Well...
If he breathes, he's a sap!
Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you would do to fix the Trickster and make him more fun. Drop a like to help out with the algorithm, and share this with your friends to see what they think. And until next one, you guys, have a good one.